Seriously? You think I'm gonna take cav advice from a guy who doesn't have Nevsky? I mean, he has Nevsky, but level 1111. Oh my god, what has the world come to? Well, in my defense, I do have Nevsky in my alt, and I have played with him a lot in the last KVK. So the advice you're gonna get is actually from playing with the commanders, not just randomly reading out the descriptions. Now, before going into Nevsky, there's few other choices that people kind of go through. Well, whether to push for Saladin, is he still good in KVK? And then you got Minamoto and Cao Cao with museum buffs, so early commanders are the kind of back. And then you got Khan. Who should be investing in Khan? Is he just a waste? And then you still have the age-old question of when it comes to Attila and Takeda, should they be paired and used in SOC KVKs, or we should just forget about them? Now, there's other commanders and a few other questions as well. So there's Chandra, is he still usable? Is he still worth going for? And then you have Jadwiga as well. And Jadwiga is obviously top in defense, but then can she be used in open field? And then there's the latest commander Bertrand. Is he kind of a must, or you can completely avoid him? So whilst we are getting ready to answer those questions, let's go through the usual procedure. Let's like and subscribe, and then also consider joining our Discord, link in the description, where we have commander talent trees, guides and equipment and so on. Well, now that you have gone through that, let's talk about the best commander in game, and it's Nevsky. And why is he the best? It's his primary skill. A lot of damage, but more importantly than the damage, it's the troop defense decrease. So when a target gets surrounded, he kind of decreases the defense quite a lot. And then the other skills are pretty good as well. There's nothing too out there about the rest of the skills, so you can kind of use him 5511, as in start using him from 5511, but then for the best outcome, best damage output, you obviously want to max him. Now, if you're talking about a single cav march or the best cav march, then the ideal pair with your Nevsky is Willam. On his first skill, he does have march speed reduction and AoE damage, but most important skill that he has is probably his third and fourth skill. Now, between the third and the fourth skill, the surrounded enemy takes extra damage, and you and your allies can get extra rage and can get defense buffs as well. So that's why you kind of get a lot out of Willam even at 5551, but then maxing the fourth skill obviously helps a lot. So Nevsky and Willam is going to be your first or the best cav march if you're using just one cav march. Now, when it comes to the second march, I think if I had every single commander, then I would be taking out XY and Chandra. Now, my XY is 5515 and the Chandra is 5521, so there's quite a long way to go. But then based on the skills, especially Chandra's health and defense reduction and how his blessing and all of that kind of works, that is a very good debuff. Speaking of debuffs, XY does a major debuff as well, defense reduction of 30%, which is great, on top of having AoE and a lot of damage. Now, that would be my second ideal pair if I had all the commanders. I can't exactly field it now because not a lot of them are maxed. Actually, not a single commander that I mentioned is maxed. That's kind of embarrassing. This is why I'm doing the cav video last, and I did the infantry and archer before, where I had all the commanders maxed. So definitely check those two out as well, because obviously you're not just playing with cavs, you're playing with all sorts of marches, so you kind of need to know about all the other ones as well. Now let's talk about the third best option. So if I was actually taking 3 cav marches out, then I think I'll go with Bertrand and then make include Minamoto. So Bertrand has nothing special, but everything is kind of okay. When it comes to Minamoto, the fourth skill is exceptional, where he can make a target take extra 30% damage for a little while, and that's why bringing out a Minamoto can help you take a target down fast. And his museum buff with defense is pretty good as well. Now, if I am talking about a fourth march now, I think that's where Attila Takeda is a solid choice, and I will probably bring them out together. Now, there could be a argument made that you can split them up, and you can. It's not the worst thing in the world, but personally, I would probably bring them out together. So Takeda kind of is tanky, but then if your primary is weak, it's not like Takeda is gonna save you from that. So I would probably still bring them out together and take advantage of the counter-attack damage. Now, if you're talking about a 5th march, that's where Jadwiga kind of comes in. I'll probably use a Saladin primary, and I will probably use a Jadwiga as secondary. Saladin is pretty good, but then again, Saladin doesn't do anything exceptional where he has to be kind of used. So that's my 5th march. Now, if we are stretching and if we wanted to take a 6th march out, I would probably then have to bring out the Khan, and you can do Khan CC that does a lot of damage. It's probably gonna die on sight, get targeted first. Now, the other thing is a lot of people use their leadership commanders with their cav commanders, because then if you're using cavs, you're still gonna be fast. You kind of lose out a little bit on some of the benefits that you get from using a leadership commander, because you're not bringing all sorts of marches, but then it kind of works because then your march is at least gonna be fast. Now let's go back to early game and talk about your choices. So when it comes to Minamoto, if you're a spender, then definitely worth spending on the Minamoto. If you're a low spender, you can get up to 5-5, and if you're a big spender or even a medium spender, you should probably get Minamoto maxed. You can buy it from the VIP shop. It's a lot of value for the first 3 KVKs. Cao Cao, you don't invest in him, you just get him from the gold heads. But Minamoto and Cao Cao makes a very solid march for KVK 1. You can even use them in KVK 2 and kind of borderline in KVK 3. Now, the other big fat question in the room is Khan. Do you invest in Khan? Well, you invest in Khan if you're a spender. If you're a low spender or if you're free to play, then you don't. Khan doesn't have, kind of like XY. I mean, it's gonna give you a lot of damage, but a lot of hospital bill, and unless you're a spender, you can't kind of afford that hospital bill. Now, the last and most important early game commander is actually Saladin. Saladin is probably my most favorite commander for KVK 1, 2, 3, but after that, he's not mandatory. So if you manage to get him to 5-5-5-1 before Season of Conquest, then that's great. If you are in Season of Conquest, don't worry about Saladin, because there are other priorities you have to work on in the name of Nevsky and Willam. Now, Nevsky and Willam, as soon as you get into Season of Conquest, you're gonna have your cav wheel, and then you kind of need to work on both. So Nevsky 5-5-1-1 and then Willam 5-5-5-1 to start off with, but then you kind of need to max both of them as well. So your will is kind of booked for these two. Now, if you do manage to get an MG placement during Season of Conquest, then I think you should pick Attila, because the other choices are not as useful. You can even use, if you do get the Attila, you can use an Attila primary and the Nevsky secondary. Your damage is going to be a little lower, but you become quite tanky because of your counter attack. Now, for infantry, I'm not worried about making my marches tanky, but for cavalry, I am, because they are the first one that arrives in the field, and usually they get targeted the first as well. So taking out 2 cav marches as a free-to-play low spender kind of depends on whether you can secure at least 2 MJ spots. One was for Saladin and the other one is for Attila. Now, if you get one and don't get the other one, then you can kind of replace that with an XY. The problem is you're maxing 2 commanders on wheel already, and then the third one XY, you're gonna get quite pressured, and XY gives you a massive hospital bill. So for lower spenders, maybe just 1 cav march with Nevsky and Willam, and maybe if you want to take 2, Attila and Nevsky, and then Saladin and Willam. Now, the cav commanders can kind of be paired with each other without too much fuss, as long as you're not making primary the mobility commanders, everything kind of works out. And even with the museum buff, for some reason Cao Cao didn't improve much, and then Khan is probably for a whale to use in the first 3 KVKs, not really after, kind of like Edward. The same kind of goes for Chandra, Jadwiga and Bertrand. They're more like whale commanders. If you're on a smaller budget, don't kind of worry about them. Nevsky and Willam should be enough. Now, Attila Takeda itself is actually a good march as well, because if you find yourself city hopping often, and if you find yourself in losing KVKs often, then Attila Takeda is kind of really good, and you can kind of rally cities with it as well. Now, I hope this video was useful for you. For more commander tips and guide videos, don't forget to like and subscribe.